You're
The
saying the
bishop.
vast majority of people who exist don't claim to have an experience of God? Maybe
No,
you
no,
don't.
I would agree. I would agree
And
that
then,
there's a
okay,
vast.
that's what they're basing it on.
I know, but do they
Experience.
have an experience of a
You
timeless,
said they don't have an
immaterial change?
experience.
Listen, do they have an experience of a timeless, changeless, spaceless, immaterial, sufficiently powerful thing? I don't
Yes.
know if we could.
Yes,
How
they
could
do.
someone within time justify having an experience of something timeless? How can someone inside space have justify an experience of something that's spaceless? That's
Yeah,
just ridiculous for me.
because that something can reveal itself to those people and give them those experiences if it so chooses to do so.
So you're telling me that we have experience of a timeless, spaceless, immaterial thing by virtue of the fact that it reveals itself as such.
No,
But
we have
I thought that
experience.
if we experience something,
Uh,
wouldn't it be impossible to experience something that's timeless while we're in time? It'd be impossible
that
to
doesn't
experience something
logically
that's
follow.
spaceless. Well, how? Explain to
I
me
mean,
how we
are
would
you saying
experience that.
then that Christians who believe in a timeless God have no experience of God?
No, no, I'm saying they have no experience of his timeless attribute.
Well, that's how they believe He exists.
Right,
Uh,
it's analytically defined as such.
It's
I
not
agree.
analytically defined as fuck. They're saying, the God I believe in, the God I worship, the God I have experienced is timeless. It's
How do you
changeless.
experience a timeless God?
Because, like I said, that timeless God can choose to interact with its creation and give those experiences.
It
If
chooses to
that makes
interact
sense.
with its creation in time and reveal it that
I
it's
never said
timeless?
in time. I never said in time.
Well, when you are claiming experience, it seems like all experiences that we have are within time, unless
Well,
there's some other manner.
that's just begging the question against
Okay,
those
well,
Christians.
no, I'm just saying
Against
that.
those Christians who believe that God exists timelessly but can interact in some way with the world in such a way that he can give us these experiences. You
So it
can't just
interacts with us in time.
no. The experiences are we experience them in time. It doesn't
Right.
enter time to give us them.
Okay, so I'm just curious the inference on how something that's timeless, who gives us some type of revelation or experience of it within time, and how we can infer from that experience in time that that thing is timeless. I don't understand. I'm
Uh,
confused.
and yeah, you are confused. That's why you've taken up this new position to justify your lifestyle. But that's not fooling anyone.
I'm just
The
trying to
reason
have
for
a
that is
logical
because
discussion with you, like regardless of my
yeah,
lifestyle or
but
whatever.
a logical discussion doesn't embraces logic. It doesn't try to excuse logic, and it doesn't try to run away from logic in order to justify a position that you've taken. It addresses the logic, and it addresses their reasoning, and it addresses that
Well,
using
Matthew,
logic
I
and
am
reasoning.
addressing your reasoning and logic, but when you're saying that
Absolutely not.
I'm taking this position to justify my lifestyle, you're stepping outside of logic, and you're just like, making some claims of me that just, look, I'm trying to say, look, you're presenting what you consider to be the logical inferences for this argument to go through, and I'm presenting what I think are the problems. Bringing up whatever lifestyle that I have to justify this just seems to be not in the same vein of what we're trying to do here.
It is in the
So
same
let's
vein.
just
When I see someone like you professing to be an agnostic, and then I hear your reasons for being an agnostic, and I hear your objections to the Calum, which are to be kind to them are ludicrous, then I have to say, well, why would he be arguing in such a way? Why would he be arguing in such a way that doesn't use the logic that he says is taking him to his position? And I have to look for reasons for why that might be the case. And the most obvious reason is to support your lifestyle.
I just
So
told you
that's
the reasons why I'm objecting is
yeah,
because
and
I think it's
and
incoherent.
your reasons
You,
don't hold up.
well, okay, listen, that's just kind of begging the question versus what we're arguing for here.
It's
Like,
not.
I
I've
want to know what
demonstrated
are the
that.
good reasons for why my reasons doesn't hold up in
I
virtue
gave
of
you
what we're
them.
talking about. Okay, and I've
And
given
I
you
gave
the
you them.
objections, but if I were to, I've given you my problems with them. Now, if I were to
And
say
I've
that you don't,
responded to those.
okay, so we both responded, but what I'm saying is I think it logically follows that we can't have some experience of a timeless God
It
within
doesn't logically
time.
follow.
How do you
It's
have an experience of a timeless God within
already
time
answered.
and then
That
okay.
God reveals himself to you. You don't get to experience that God by yourself. It requires that God to interact with the world in some way that gives you an experience which you infer to his existence.
Okay, okay, let me say that I grant you that. I'm just curious of what type of experience, give me an example of the experience that could reveal to me that God is timeless.
A Damascus Road experience, such as Paul experienced in the road to
So
Damascus.
I see, the risen Christ, or I see God, he reveals himself to me, and he says to me, within time, hey, I'm God, I'm the Lord, I'm this, I'm that, I'm all powerful, boom, boom, shebang, bang, and then I should infer that he's timeless?
No, you didn't. No, you shouldn't. What you should do is you should repent from your sins, and you should acknowledge the existence of that God, be saved, and then you should say, okay, so what do I do now? Then you should ask a mature Christian, and a mature Christian will direct you to a Christian pastor who will take you through the Bible, who will answer your questions, who will say, okay, you want to know what the nature of this God is? Hey, here's the Callum cosmological argument. Here's the ontological argument.
Okay.
And they will take
Maybe I'll do that.
They will take you through the evidences that will give you further information about the God who exists. You don't get it from that in it, but you have experience. In that experience, you have experienced, whether you're aware of it or not, you have experienced a timeless, spaceless, immaterial, very powerful thing that
I don't think we can experience anything that's timeless. I think we could get a revelation that he says that he's timeless. But I think I have an epistemological objection with...
How long does it take to know something?
Say that again?
How long does it take to know something?
I don't know.
Exactly. You've experienced something that's timeless. Requires no time to know something.
Well, look, having something take no duration of time doesn't mean it's timeless.
Well, if it takes no time to know something, what time is required to know it?
What I mean is that if we see objective morality, that it necessarily implies God. Not merely that God could sufficiently explain there be objective morality. It's that only under God could there be objective morality. So that it's not just a sufficient condition; it's a necessary and sufficient condition.
That's what the premise is.
I know, but I'm disputing the inference between its being the necessary condition, right?
Well,
I need an argument. I need an argument for why God is the necessary condition for objective morality.
First of all, the argument is to God being a necessary source and locus of objective morality, and of course, support's given for that.
Well, that's what I'm asking for. I'm asking for the support for that claim. What is the support for the inference that it's a necessary condition? Because I agree it's a sufficient condition.
One of the lines of support is that every other proposed objective source of morality is subjective. It starts with human beings. It starts with their views. It starts with their opinions. They then construct what they want to define morality to be, and then once it's defined.
That's ridiculous and false.
Okay. Give me an example of any proposed non-supernatural, non-God objective moral system that does not start with human beings and then defining
ethical non-naturalism.
Define it.
Ethical non-naturalism is
which is composed by whom?
Ethical non-naturalism. Look, ethical non-naturalism is the thesis that good cannot be reduced to any naturalistic quality, and then that there be certain non-naturalistic value properties.
Produced by whom?
I think it was first put forth by G.E. Moore.
Like humans, yeah?
Huh?
Put forward by human beings.
Well, look, a theory being put forth by human beings doesn't, because I mean that's every theory that's ever been put forth. Yeah, but look, what you're confusing two things. You're confusing that the theory brought up has been put forth by humans, and then the actual standard for morality, the meta-ethic, is based on some subjective notion. That's false.
Show me a meta-ethic.
Comes from notion.
Well, subjective means based on people's views, opinions, etc. Yeah.
No, it's an ethical non-naturalism mean it's not based on human views or
So
opinions,
what's it
right?
based on then?
It's based on these non-naturalistic value properties that exist in the
Okay,
world,
okay.
okay?
And who
That are
constructs those
only that
value
are
properties?
only
Who
look
tells
that
us
are
about these
only
value properties?
they're understood and defended epistemically through
Right.
rational or either rational intuitionism or moral
Exactly.
sensibility intuitionism.
Subjectivism. They're
No, no,
proposed.
no, no,
They're
no.
proposed by humans. If, like, for example, you can say, "Hey, you know what? You want to be a that kind of objectivist? That's okay for you."
No. Just
Yes,
because
you
we have
can.
experience
You
of
can
something
say,
rationally or intuitively doesn't mean that it's a subjective, right? I
yeah,
agree that the experience is
"What
subjective, but
experience?"
what
That
we're
begs the
experiencing.
question.
Listen, Listen, if you say that we experience like external reality, right? I mean, it seems like you take external reality to actually exist. So
Only as
what
a
you're saying is
properly
just
basic
because
belief.
we right, right. So what I'm saying is you're not saying that just by virtue of the fact that we have an experience of it, that we come to know external reality through our experiences, that it's subjective. You want to say, no, there's an objective fact to external reality.
No,
So that
that's an
just is a
assumption.
defeater.
No, no, no. That's an assumption. It's my
All I'm
assumption.
trying to show
It's no,
you,
no, no. Wait a minute. It's my assumption
I
that
understand it's
it's
an
right.
assumption
So it's
based
not
on
something.
properly
So
basic
it's
beliefs.
not something I'm saying that the physical world is objective reality. I'm not saying that. I'm
I'm
saying
just making the
I have
inference
an
that just because
assumption.
we experience something doesn't mean there's not an objective fact of the matter,
Okay.
right?
What?
Just
What?
because we look,
Wow.
if we have a rational intuition of
What?
like moral value properties, it doesn't mean that there isn't a objective fact of the matter
We
just by
don't have
virtue of
that.
the fact that.
But we don't have such a rational moral intuition. That's the problem.
Okay, well, people like G.E. Moore would disagree
Yeah,
with you.
exactly. And that tells you that it's subjective.
That's
It's
ridiculous. That
not.
makes no sense.
You've got some people
That
who think, hey, you know what? Yeah, I have this rational moral intuition. There's other people who say, I don't have that. Other people who say you're both talking bullshit. None of
it
yous are
doesn't
right.
matter what people say.
Yeah,
Okay?
well, you have to have
People
an
could say
argument.
anything. Just because people say something doesn't mean
Yes,
there's not an
that
objective
means
fact of the
that means you
matter.
have to have an argument to get from what people say to the actual thing being objective,
Yeah, the basis for ethical
of what they say.
non-naturalism is the open question. That it's that it's based on the open question and the naturalistic fallacy. That there it seems to be an open question what the good is, and
It's not okay.
when we
According
try
to
to
whom?
attribute. Well, listen. What I'm saying is the argument for ethical non-naturalism begins with the open question, right? And then it begins to say that it's a fallacy to equate whatever the good is to any naturalistic property, right? So those two arguments in conjunction show you that these moral value properties are non-natural,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah,
then so
only if you buy
then we
into
go on from the ontological thesis to the epistemic thesis. How
only if
can
you
we
buy
defend
into
these
the
propositions? And
what
there's
if you don't
two.
buy
There's
into the opening arguments?
what do you mean if you don't? You could raise an objection to the arguments if
Exactly.
you'd
So if you
like.
don't buy into G.E. Moore's rational moral intuition, the arguments don't go anywhere. You don't get to
Look,
your objective morals.
you're not buying into them as distinct from you having an argument to rebut them. So, but look, I don't. If you can't,
No, no, no.
don't buy into them.
The burden of evidence is upon the one making the assertion, not on someone who says,
No, no,
that
no. But we expect
that
that if
doesn't ring
someone
true to me.
look, if it doesn't ring true to you, anyone can invoke the utterance. What we want to know is what are the rational,
Yeah, that's
logical
why you're
reasons
the
for which
question.
they don't ring true to you. Anyone
Yeah.
could say they don't ring true to me. We want to know what's the argument or the justification
No,
for
no, no.
why they don't ring
No,
true
no,
to
no.
you.
That's an attempt to shift the burden of proof. That's to assume that there's a rational that there's actually some credibility to what's been proposed, and that anyone objecting to that has to present reasons for not. The person who's objecting to that says, "Yeah, I hear what you're
Okay.
proposing. Can you give me some sort of argument to get to this?
Okay.
We
So
all
let's start slowly.
have this rational, objective intuition."
Okay, so let's start slowly with the open question argument. The open question argument is just to say that, okay, look, if I were to ask you, what is the good, right? and then you claim that whatever X is the good, whether it's God's command or well-being or so forth, and then I could ask you, well, why is that good? It seems like the answer to that question it's not analytically true. Okay, it seems that question is open for debate. It's not a closed question like what is an unmarried man and a married bachelor. Okay,
it's analytically true. It's analytically true that morality is the locus of morality is in God's nature from a Christian perspective. By definition, God is perfectly moral.
Yeah, but
that's
look,
analytically
that doesn't.
True. It's not an open question for a Christian, or a Muslim, or a Jew. There is no open question for those people.
But then if I were to ask you, why is it the case that God is the good, right?
Because
what
God
would you say? It's just analytically true?
Yes, well, yeah. First of all, there's the necessary existence of God, and it's analytically true. By definition,
well, there's
that's
no
what
argument
God is.
saying something is true by definition, right? That's not an argument. It's just saying
that's what you said. You said it's not analytically true. It is analytically true. By definition, God is a perfectly moral being.